In 2014, our goal was to educate and inspire the next generation of young Black leaders. So we set out to find the nation's best of the best to reveal the secrets to success. Our belief is that we should teach the young early the things that we learn late. Our lives are shifting the culture. Our lives are changing the narrative. This is the ShineHard Conversation. Welcome back to another episode of the ShineHard Conversation. I'm your host, Johnny Bailey, and this week I'm in Washington, D.C. with social entrepreneur, cultural curator, Michell Clark.
What's happening, man?
Yo.
How you feeling?
Good, bro. Michell has an extraordinary talent in aesthetics, digital aesthetics to be specific. And because of so, he's been featured in Blavity, Jet Mag, Rolling Out, and many others. Today, he's going to talk to us about how we can enhance our digital brands and what it means to be a professional content creator, and probably share some of the keys to his personal success.
For sure.
So, without further ado, Michell's time to shine.
Let's do it, man.
So, a lot of times people see us online, social media specifically, and they think they know us. But they don't always see how we got there or, what growing up was like for us.
Absolutely.
So talk a little bit about your childhood and, your life as a youngin'.
Man, it was very different from where I am now. I was born in Indiana.
Okay.
My dad was at Purdue University getting his master's, and we were a military family. So I spent the first 5 to 7 years of my life, I want to say, bouncing around. I was in Hawaii, we were in Kansas, we were in Indiana, and he moved here and retired in Woodbridge.
Here, okay.
Which is like an hour south of DC. So very suburban upbringing, but I was fortunate to be able to attend school in the same little city, same little town for, all 12 years until college, which was great. So I could kind of build some long-term friendships, find my way. I was a pretty quiet kid. I was a nervous.
No way.
Absolutely. I had a weird stutter happening from middle school all the way through my second year of college, actually.
Oh my God.
And I had to kind of break from that. But I was in the advanced classes. My parents had me reading tons of books from a very early age, probably why I write so much now. I had that passion for reading and writing early. I ran track. I was like 145 pounds when I finished high school. Right. So, mad tiny. And just a very, focused, quiet, honor roll type kid.
Yeah, academic.
In church every Sunday.
A little bit of track.
Yeah, I was all state, so a lot of track.
Oh, okay.
I was pretty nice. I was pretty nice. But yeah, of course, doing sports in church and just trying to figure out life, really.
Yeah. So how did your upbringing help you find a passion in the creative side of things that you're in now?
I think that my upbringing taught me a couple of important things in terms of like winning at creativity. My parents were very much so aware that I was, intelligent and that I could do well, but they were always like, you're going to work hard no matter what you do. You're going to read these books, get these A's.
So had that militant discipline side of things.
Yeah, they taught me how to work hard, laid the foundation for that. Taught me the importance of being organized because I'm actually definitely a very messy person by nature. It's actually really bad. So like when I get stressed, my room becomes this wasteland of just piles of stuff, and it's ugly.
So wait, how many photos do you have in your camera roll right now?
Why are you asking these personal questions?
I said, how many? Not the first one.
How many?
Don't swipe left.
I have no idea yet. Never swipe left, actually. Probably way over 500. So I don't delete.
500 is not that much.
It's not.
I mean, for someone to say messy, I was expecting like thousands and thousands of never organizing ever.
I'm probably neater digitally than I am physically.
Respect.
And I've gotten better at both, actually. Yeah. But I'm generally clean, but when things get stressful, when I'm broke, when I'm distressed, my room becomes a little more college dorm room than
okay.
space,
Now I get where you're going with this.
Absolutely.
Yeah. I'm the same way. I live so fast paced that sometimes I'm like, I'll deal with that later and things pile up.
Yeah.
But yeah, that's kind of a part of it. So what did you want to be when you were a kid? What did you want to be when you grew up?
I think a basketball player, but I was terrible at basketball.
You're like 5'1", bro.
5'1"? 5'1".
Okay, 5'2".
I'm gonna buy you a hot meal, put a little weight on you first. We can go from there with them ripped jeans. I'm 5'10" for your information. But yeah, basketball was never my thing. I wanted to be an astronaut, but just never followed through on that either.
Yeah.
But those are the biggest things, I think. I still remember I wanted to write a book when I was like 5 or 7 years old, and we had like MS-DOS computers, the super old
green screen joints.
Yeah, the green screen joints with like all the annoying beeps. Yeah. And I actually would like copy articles and just paste them in a document and say it was my book.
Wow.
So I wanted to be a writer.
That's what's up.
To a certain extent, you know.
So let's talk about your life as an entrepreneur and the things that you're doing now. Tell us a little bit more about your business as a content creator and what that means and what that looks like.
Gotcha. So the majority of my content creation right now is centering around what I do as a social media influencer, which is kind of a hot button keyword right now for people in certain instances. But long story short, I use my personal story. I use my passion for curating playlists and other creative experiences, and I tell stories to people through social media. So I talk about my entrepreneurial struggle. I talk about things that I regret, things that I used to be scared to talk about. I talk about how I can be more efficient entrepreneurially, how I make things work on social media as a marketer, as a writer. And I give that to people on social media platforms, on my website, and even on LinkedIn too. So I'm starting to kind of expand how I put out content.
Nice.
But that's a big part of it. And I really try to curate relationships with different brands and figure out, at the end of the day, we all want to get paid. So what can I do to provide value to these different companies, to these people, to these possible clients that will help me secure more bags?
Right, absolutely. So I think everyone knows what it means, or thinks they know what it means to be a social influencer. We're all like, oh, you got 2,000 followers, I'm an influencer, right? Can you talk a little bit more about what uniquely separates people who are really influencers and the people who just are trying to get likes and things like that?
I mean, real influencers just sell a higher volume of flat tummy tea. That's all you gotta know, I think, so I wrote about this recently. Like the term influencer, it's kind of like one of them you got some nerve type of phrases to proclaim for yourself. Because for a while it kind of felt like people who put, CEO, president, owner, future millionaire in their Twitter bios. It's like, you really can't claim that. You haven't made an LLC yet. Like, let's not get ahead of ourselves. So for a while, the term influencer felt a bit over the top. But it is an actual industry, and companies look for people who call themselves influencers and who can affect change through their words, through their images, and their message. So to me, a social media influencer is someone who can use their personality, their perspective, their knowledge, their expertise, and they can package that and communicate that somehow to an audience they've built in a way that will make them actually care about what's being said. Whether it's talking about a product, talking about a city, talking about a cause or a concept. Do your words hold weight? And if so, with who? Who's your audience? Is it college kids? Is it people who live in Nevada? Is it people who, are into fitness? So being able to also know your audience and speak to them, I think, is a big part of being an influencer.
Nice. Is there a certain amount of followers that's attached to being an influencer? Or is it just about your ability to move the people who do follow you?
So from a company's perspective, they probably look for a certain number of followers. They look for the level of interaction because, you know, how much time do companies really have to research these things? Not too much. And half the time, people who make choices about different influencers don't even use social media actively. So they come from the outside and look in and say, I think I want that. At the same time, everyone has influence. If you know somebody, anybody, you have influence. Of course, there's different scales, different levels. And that's kind of where it comes in with companies deciding who they want to pick.
So what steps does a person take to actually secure the bag with the company to be an influencer?
To secure the bag with the company, there's a lot of different options.
What's the most effective option from your experience?
I think the most effective thing to focus on is relationships. We can talk about making effective content all day, but at the end of the day, the most important thing I think is relationships and being able to talk with people frequently and make those connections. For myself, right now, I'm blessed to be signed to an influencer agency.
Wow.
So they'll go out and look for contracts on my behalf.
What agency is that?
Shade Management. They are for Black and brown influencers, and they really kind of understand us. They're part of the culture. They're also below 30, New York-based, great people.
Wow.
But for me, being able to maintain a relationship with them, tell them what I'm doing, and just talk to them like regular people. And also being able to carry myself in a certain way. People like yourself who I meet with different companies who I want to work with one day. Just goes a long way. So that's very important. And to a certain extent, you are creating a relationship with your audience. Like, what things do they come to expect from you? Are you providing value for them in a certain way? Like, maybe you want to get more followers, so this company will reach out to you, but how are you actually helping your followers? Are you doing it consistently?
So you really got to find a way to engage and then leverage that engagement and that quantity, that mass quantity that you have, and then leverage it for the bag with the relationships that you have.
Absolutely.
So let's rewind a little bit back to coming out of high school. What college did you go to?
Man, I went to 20,000 different. I went to 3 different schools.
Really?
Yeah, I went to.
How'd that go?
It was kind of an up and down thing. I went to West Point, the military academy.
That makes sense.
In New York. It was cold as hell. It was 6% black, 85% male. It was crazy, but it did, in fact, it taught me so much about what I could actually do.
I took a visit to VMI coming out of high school, and I was like, nah, I'm good.
So I've never been to VMI.
Same statistics, don't worry. You've been there. You've already been there.
Didn't miss too much, but it was one of the hardest experiences of my life. But it made me so much better and more confident. And
that was 1 year?
No, I actually went there 4 years and got expelled about a month before I should have graduated.
Wow.
It was truly a wild time, and I can smile and talk about it now, but it was probably one of the most hurtful and potentially, I don't want to say life-stopping, but motivation killing experiences of my life, to literally be expelled a month before I should have graduated. All over some relatively minor things.
Talk about that off script. Or you want to share it?
I can share it. It's not really important. I can share it.
Share it in a summarized version.
So
don't cry. Okay,
I mean, I can throw out like 5.5 thug tears, but like no more, no less.
All right, deal. Talk about what happened. Like how did you get expelled?
I went to West Point with very limited knowledge of who I actually am, which I think a lot of 18-year-old kids lack.
That's normal.
But we're in the system where you have to choose essentially what direction you want your life to take after finishing up high school. I was very involved in different activities, like sports, church, of course, honor roll classes in high school. Didn't know what I was looking for per se, but my family is military, like I said before. My father, uncle, and 2 of my cousins also went to West Point.
So what happened, bro?
So, I went there and I got out there and did pretty well. But long story short, I got found with a girl in my bed. A classmate snitched on me, which is a huge thing, you know,
What?
21 years
I
old.
would have never been out of college if that was the case.
How dare we? But I was accused of lying about the incident, and then just having the girl in your bed is a big issue at West Point. So, long story short, I got an honor board for lying about it. I was convicted of being dishonorable, and I was expelled. So, the entire time that I was going through this process, you know, I didn't have any rank on my shirts. And that's kind of a big thing. Everybody could see it. And people just started to look down on me and treat me a different way. I couldn't leave campus. And, you know, by the time I left, I was just so happy to get out and be able to start over. So I went home. I worked for about 6 months. I went to UVA for a summer. They wanted me to spend like 3 more years there in some kind of work study program, which I was not going to do. I was already 22 at that point. So I ended up going to VCU in Richmond, and I finished up in a year. So 2 semesters and a bunch of random summer courses. Finally got it out the way. I was like, I'm never going to school again. I spent 5.5 years getting my undergrad degree. And
that was a very traumatic college experience.
Incredibly,
what did you study at VCU?
I studied sociology. So.
Wow. So what was your first job? After all of that, what was the first thing you did coming out of college with the sociology degree?
Well, the first thing I did, I was working as a delegate as an intern for my state delegate. And I was handling like admin, communication stuff, go figure. And when that finished, I went home and was working temp jobs and got a job with the Princeton Review in about 6 months as a territory manager. So pretty much a brand ambassador, talking to parents, giving presentations, and just trying to make sales.
So what was the track like? So how did you go from the Princeton Review to realizing that, hey, I can be an entrepreneur working on my own and I can make my own bread?
So I had this idea that I wanted to be an entrepreneur one day, but I was going about it very passively. I was running a hip hop blog, you know, doing 5 or 10 posts per day, but I had no business plan. Had a pretty comfortable job. I was happy to be in my own apartment and, you know, be far away from Woodbridge, close to DC. And I was young and single and just kind of out there. Until I was told that I would probably get fired from my job in about 2 or 3 months. And they gave me this performance plan. They're like, if you just do these 3, 4, or 5 things. And there were things like, you know, turn around sales for the whole region. You know, increase sales by. If you can scale the whole company, you can. Right. You know, I'm still just one person. So I heard this, and I'm just like, this is ridiculous. And you know, I've been in this mode of climbing this corporate ladder and you know, finding some type of safe situation, steady salary, and I'm like, if playing it safe is not safe anymore, then what am I even doing here? I'm not passionate about this. I can do it pretty well, but why should I spend all this time trying to meet this plan for a new boss who just came in here and needs somebody to blame when I could just go out there and take my own risks and do my own thing.
So you had your entrepreneurial seizure, as they call it in the book?
Pretty much. It was like a pretty calm but still very definitive seizure. So I ended up making Michell C. Clark that month. I started figuring out what I wanted to do as a social media coach and kind of started working on figuring out how to build my audience. I learned about social media influencing as a career and started applying for agencies and things like that. And I actually got an opportunity to coordinate a few events for a writers based down in the Hampton area. So a couple different things happened at once, which led me to taking that leap.
Nice. So a lot of times people leave their job and become entrepreneurs. What advice would you have for someone who's thinking about doing that?
I think you already know the way you phrase that question. Become an entrepreneur. You know, figure out what your business plan is. Start doing the work and, you know, save some money up. If things are ideal for you and your job is good enough and you can stand it and you're not being told that you might be fired, I would save the job. I would figure out my plan, save some money, save enough for 2 or 3 months, and then get out.
I always say 6 months, but that's still good advice. And did you have a mentor? Was there like a mentor for you to be like, hey, bro, do it like this?
I had a few people who were doing somewhat similar things, but no real mentors. I would say I probably have found more since like starting to put myself out there, and, you know, joining the agency and doing things like that. But I didn't really have any mentors.
Nice. So you just figured it out.
Eventually.
Yeah. No, that's how a lot of people do, and that's part of the reason why we started the ShineHard family, because we felt like a lot of people don't have mentors, and the only way you can figure out how to get to where you're going is through trial and error. Absolutely. Or to see someone else do it, and then you learn. Yeah. And I feel like if I can see you do it, then I understand that I can do it too. So that's what really this is all about, and it's so pivotal that young black men and women like you and I just get out here and tell our stories.
It's important. It's a very important mission, so shouts to y'all.
Thank you. So if you had a Mount Rushmore of inspiration, could you name 2 or 3 people that would be on it?
I'm trying to think of Mount. I'm always bad at these types of things because it's like so many people have helped me in different ways. Yeah. So really, I'll say my parents. I think first and foremost, my mom taught me how to, you know, talk to people, and I got my personality from her. Yeah. You know, my dad taught me how to sacrifice and put structure in your life and work for certain things. And I'd probably have to dig a bit deeper to kind of figure out the rest of my Mount Rushmore. Yeah. But if I'm being honest, I kind of get so caught up in just figuring out where I'm gonna go, what I'm gonna do, that I kind of draw like little things from like a lot of different people.
That's real.
So it'd be like a full choir stand Mount Rushmore, you know?
That's real. Yeah. And a major staple of this project is a saying that I always tell myself is that passion changes everything. And I say that because I believe that if you find your passion, it will lead you to your purpose. And clearly you are making strides towards your greater purpose. Can you talk about what is your passion and when you knew that was your passion?
I think that I've grown to understand my passion a bit more over the past 3 or 4 years. And I'm honestly still putting pieces together about how to best make it happen. Yeah. But the best way to put it is that I think my passion lies in 2 major areas. The first is using what I've gone through, my low points as an entrepreneur, as a college student, to be able to help others. Writing about these types of things is therapeutic for me. And people have told me, like, me talking about what I've gone through, how I got out, and, how I made a change for the better, really encouraged them. Yeah. So that'll always be a passion. And I think, curation is a pretty testy kind of buzzword, kind of like influencer. Yeah. Everybody wants to be a curator. Right. But at the same time, I've been writing about music that I love for almost 8 years now. I've been blogging about it. I haven't made that much money from it, but I've always loved it. I make playlists now, and I just genuinely love that. So being able to share some of the best stuff that I find from musicians, from other creatives, from artists is always a passion of mine. Nice. Being able to curate unique event spaces.
What's been the biggest challenge in your career getting to this point as an entrepreneur, a curator and a creator merged together?
I think the biggest challenge has been lack of clarity. I was in the military. I went to military academy. I was a very hard worker for my entire life. But I'm used to just kind of working and doing things and not always thinking about, here's my long-term plan. Yeah. Here's where I want to be in 6 months. Maybe I shouldn't do that thing over there. Is this really worth my time? So having to get a lot more clear about where I want to be so that I can figure out what's actually meant for me and what might sound good but might not be the best thing given where I want to go. Yeah. So being able to have a discretion and figure out my long-term game plan.
That's real. Yeah, I feel like when we are entrepreneurs, we have to set up our daily plan and we have to basically manage ourselves. Absolutely. Everyone's used to having their manager tell them what to do. And you're on your own. It's like you got to tell yourself what to do.
Yeah, you can't blame your boss anymore.
So do you believe everyone has a dream?
I believe so. I think so, yeah.
So what do you think separates people who have realized their dream and the people who haven't?
I don't know. I think the bigger thing is people who are working towards actualizing it. I think that we all probably realize what our dream is to a certain extent, whether we think about it or admit it. I think so.
Everyone realizes their dream?
I think to a certain extent, you know what dream you might have.
But realizing it means making it real and actually living in that.
So you're saying, I guess, I'm thinking of actualizing, which is, so similar things.
Yeah.
I think that people don't believe in their dreams enough to actually work on them and make them happen.
Yeah.
Because chasing a dream requires you to let go of certain friendships, certain luxuries, free time. You know, you got to invest probably years into perfecting your craft, figuring out your plan, and being able to make this dream happen. Yeah. So, like, you know, I've been a writer and a content creator almost every day for 7 years, 8 years almost, actually. So people ask me, you know, how do you do all these things? And I'm like, well, I started in 2010. Right. When I was at the military academy, I was writing, you know, when I barely had time to write. I was broke for the first, 5 or 6 months on my own.
The first 6 years I was broke.
Yeah.
The 7th year, all the money came in.
You know, like, it sounds crazy, but it's really true. So you have to really believe in yourself enough to stick it out and keep finding a way. And
what inspires you to succeed?
I think that long term, just the belief that I am meant to pursue my passion and figure out my purpose. And, I don't think that me being in a day job or me not fulfilling that purpose is gonna really do much for anybody. I can hold down a mid-level day job and that's good as well, but who am I helping besides the company? What does that do for me developmentally? I don't want to be a better employee. I want to be better at living my life and fulfilling my purpose. So
that's right.
When you're able to start living your life with that in mind, I feel like you can do so much more. You can help more people. The perks are pretty awesome so far. I won't lie to you. You can do things you didn't think were possible.
Yeah. You just came back from Toronto.
Yeah, I was in Toronto for like 2.5 days. Yeah. It felt like a dream.
All expenses paid, just working.
It was awesome. I was with Delta Toronto, a new hotel chain up there. Great facility. I could, we toured Toronto for about 2.5 days. Yeah. Saw the sights, had some amazing food. And I went to the top of the tower up there. It's like over 1,000 feet in the air where Drake shot his album cover, actually. Yeah. I was eating some seared lamb shank.
Were you sitting where Drake sat with your feet hanging off the edge?
I mean, Drake was sitting where I was sitting, actually. No, I wasn't sitting where he was sitting, but we were in this like little glass building so we could see out like the whole city, and it was turning around, and I'm just like, yo, this is work right now.
It's a real moment.
Yeah, definitely a moment. But there was many a broke night with frozen food before I had that night.
So I have a burning question. I know that it's about social media, and I know that you know a lot about it. And I feel like social media is so vain. And I consider myself an influencer, and I know that my voice is necessary on certain topics. And I know that, we are the leaders of the culture, we're thought leaders, right? And we want to participate in what's going on. And sometimes I take a step back because I feel like it's oversaturated and people are misusing their voice. And it's so much vanity and just garbage all the time that I have to take myself back. So for you, when it comes to social media, what frustrates you the most about the digital culture?
What frustrates me the most? I think one of the things that frustrates me the most is people see social media notoriety or whatever you want to call it as being something that it's not. Like it doesn't come with, a black card or free trips or wealth or any kind of money really until you make something of it possibly. People think you have all the answers and all the time in the world, so they want to pick your brain, and they want you to share all their stuff, and they want you to do all these things for them, and they start to put you on a pedestal and assume you can do things that you can't or shouldn't do for your own sake, and they start to, ask for things that, if the roles switched, they probably wouldn't do for you because you're in this spot, and all they can see is what you have as being what they want. So they feel entitled to be able to ask things of you that just don't make sense, don't come from a place of empathy.
That's real. What about in today's culture in regards to social injustices? What frustrates you the most about that?
About injustice on social media?
Or injustice in just in America? Being a black man, what experiences?
Man, I was gonna say, I think that, well, I mean, social injustice in America, I think we're becoming a lot more aware of it now. Due to social media, there are a lot of different ways that kind of manifests. And so your question is what frustrates me about
social injustice media in America. Like what issues do you feel like are being heard, not being heard, things that you see that you just can't stand, things that you've experienced that you wish would change?
This whole black in America thing is pretty crazy. Historically speaking. That
400 years is crazy.
Unfortunately is never gonna change is what it feels like. Like it manifests in different ways. So that goes without saying. That's very frustrating. And the way people treat oppressed people in general, different groups of people.
What's your thought on activism?
I think it's important. I think that it's important to make sure that tangible actions follow up, powerful statements and videos. And I think that we can all be impactful in that space. Because we all have some sort of influence, some sort of network, some sort of purpose we can fulfill within that. But I think it's important to tap in and focus on bottom line results over tweets being known. Posts. And I think that people have different skills. So, while some of us are built for protesting and being on the front line, as they say, some can support financially, some can support through teaching, some can support through supplies and logistics, some can support.
Activism comes in different forms.
Absolutely. There's a bunch of different ways to make it happen.
My guy Julian Michell, he's like, you have to understand your form of activism. Absolutely.
I remember that talk on that too.
Yeah. That's a good guy. Shout out to Julian. You talked about you growing up as a bookworm. Your parents pushing you to read and write. And I'm sure you're still a heavy reader today. And I know I am. I'm a bookworm. What would you say is one book that has changed your life as an entrepreneur? Or as a young black man? It could be either way.
As both.
Deep.
I think that I liked Mark Echo's Unlabel Me a lot because he kind of dove into his struggles. Of course, he made Echo. He made Complex. So for me, as somebody with a foot in hip hop culture, who also has different entrepreneurial goals, it was great to hear him talk about his honest struggles, people he looked up to, who he tried to emulate, things that failed for him, how he managed to kind of make it through, and times when, this multi-millionaire thought I might not make it, So it's like, if people like that can go through these struggles and feel like they don't have the answers and eventually make it, it's like, I can make it too.
Yeah, that's deep. So what advice do you have for the students and the young professionals, the millennials who want to become content creators and really take over in the digital marketing space? What advice would you give to them about getting started, and what's the mindset?
I think that one of the most important things is to remember why you want to do it in the first place, and to think about, if a stranger came across you in the digital space, how would you help them? Like, what value would you provide to them? And kind of sticking to that. I think that keeping track of that and finding a reason that taps into your passion, and also can help, spark others in a certain way, will allow you to have enough discipline and focus to be able to execute and kind of get better. Because it's really a year after year type process where you have to kind of learn the tricks of the trade. I would also advise people to look at what people both in and out of their field are doing and how they're winning. Everything from like how they execute different things on social media to the events they go to,
picking up gems,
the books they read,
from people who are doing it well.
They better be watching the ShineHard talks and everything else.
Bro.
How are they learning actively, and then also just continuing to treat people right. I think that it's dope that we're here because I think that we're part of a similar peer group to a certain extent.
Absolutely.
And we just met. I was like, dang, he has Everett and Julian at this panel. I don't know him personally, but he seems ill. We end up getting dinner. We chop it up. I came to the event and everything else. We've spoken, stayed in touch since then.
Yeah.
That's important.
It is.
Because people who are in similar spaces can encourage you and help you and teach you in ways that people who are not involved in that space can. So
absolutely,
being able to start relationships without coming like, hey, can I be on your show? Can I get in free to your party? Can I get something,
Can I get a playlist, bro?
Yeah, just like starting real friendships and connections with people who are involved in things that you are also involved in.
That's real. That's real, man. And I know you have many more gems to share, but unfortunately, that's the end of our conversation for this evening.
Dang, bro.
But let everybody know how they can find you, a little bit about your platform, your services, and anything else you want them to know.
All right, so you can find me at michellcclark.com. That's MICHELLC Clark with no E.com. It's also my handle on Twitter, Instagram, Facebook, all the above. I'm pretty easy to find. I send out emails once a week with an article, a playlist, and a social media tip. So my website again, sign up for that.
Very dope. I stamped it. I'm on there. I'm listening to this playlist this morning.
Amen. More about myself. I like to create fun experiences both digitally and physically. So I'm throwing a brunch party on the 16th for the holidays. Come to that for sure. I also write pretty often about the struggles that I go through, and maybe it can help you too. Some of the most important things, and of course the weekly playlists. But yeah.
Dope. You guys can find me, Johnny Bailey, at @1Johnny Bailey. Of course, follow the ShineHard conversation and the movement at ShineHard Fam. And you guys got to find your passion, and don't let the adversity deter you from your passion. When things go down, you got to continue to push through, stay consistent in your dream, and things will manifest for you. So as always, shine for the culture. Peace. Okay. My man.
Appreciate you.
Likewise, bro.
Absolutely, man.
Again, our goal is to help young black boys and girls discover their passion and change the world, but we cannot do this without the help of the ShineHard community. Will you be the milestone donor that helps a 17-year-old black girl learn the path of a plastic surgeon? Will you be the keystone donor that helps a 22-year-old graduate break through into the tech industry? We as a community can accomplish so much together, but the time to act is now. Here's what you can do. Scroll down, click donate, and invest in the future of our community. I'm Johnny Bailey, and together we shine.